All right, old school NBA fans, self-researched NBA facts. Got another video for you. As always, thanks to anybody who watches my videos, subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it. I got some real good people coming through lately, and I really appreciate it. I'm doing something a little different in this video here. And what it all comes down to is the push for LeBron James as the GOAT. You know how I feel about it. Okay. Now, time and time again, when pushed about it, the big people on TV, the ones everybody knows, whether it be Nick Wright or Shannon Sharp or Colin Cowherd or Kendrick Perkins, they always recite his longevity stats. That always comes into play because they know he falls flat on everything else. They'll bring up his his all NBAs, his all stars, all the longevity stuff is what they bring up. They know he falls flat on championships, MVPs. They don't like to bring up the fact that he changed teams, stacked the deck with all these great players just to win those championships. And a couple of them were miracles. But that's what always comes into play. At some point, they're bringing up the longevity. That's the crux of the argument, is longevity. He had the most points. He has the most all-star games. He has, he's like sixth in rebounds or whatever it is. He's, fourth in assists and fifth in triple doubles, whatever it is. It's in the ballpark. I don't even know what it is. But that's what always comes up every time. So my question then is, whenever I've watched any other sports show about any other sport, that doesn't get brought up. Now, the players like a Jerry Rice, he's got the longevity, but he also has the most touchdowns, the most receiving yards. He's got, 3 Super Bowl wins. It's a little different story. And obviously football doesn't translate as well to basketball because you don't control as much as being, even if you're a great player. You have an all-time great tackle or outside linebacker. You're not going to be able to control things. The quarterback, sure, he does. He has a lot more control than, any other position. But even players like a Dan Marino, he was a great quarterback. Those of us that were fortunate enough to watch him in the 80s and 90s, we knew Dan Marino was about as good as quarterback as throwing the ball as there's ever played. He's right up there. But he didn't have a great defense, never had a good running game. His offensive line was just so-so. So the team success just wasn't there. And a player like a Tom Brady, obviously because of the Super Bowls. But even him, you have to look at his offensive line, his defense. It was rock solid. Not that Brady wasn't great and made great plays, was great in the clutch. All those things are true. But both things can be true at the same time. That he had a great defense, a really, really good legendary coach, and his offensive line was always really good too. So anyway, what I'm looking at here is, why do we never do it with other sports? Okay, let's look at just hockey for a minute. Now, I'm a mild hockey fan. I like the Blackhawks. Alex Ovechkin, he's been in the league. This is his 20th season. That's exactly what Wayne Gretzky played. And I'm sure he's playing. He wants to break Gretzky's record of 894 goals. He's at 868. So he gets 27 more goals. He's the all-time leader in goals. Now, is that going to put him over Gretzky? No. Nobody's even going to bat an eye about trying to say he's on Wayne Gretzky's level. Not even close. Now, my mind, Michael Jordan has more of a GOAT, has more of a stake for the GOAT in the NBA, more than Gretzky does in hockey. And Gretzky was great, don't get me wrong. In 20 seasons, Wayne Gretzky won 9 Hart trophies, which is basically the MVP. He led the league in goals 5 times. He led the league in assists 16 times. And the points leader, which is assists and goals combined, 11 times. He won 4 Stanley Cups. So obviously Gretzky's resume is just impeccable. And he's the all-time leader in assists, the all-time leader in points. So he's got all that going for him. Okay. But here's the thing. Wayne Gretzky, on his team when he was in Edmonton from 1980 to 1988, in those 9 years, this is what he had on his team. Paul Coffey. Paul Coffey won 4 Stanley Cups with Edmonton. He was an 8-time All-Star, a Hall of Famer, and he was on the 100th anniversary team. So I think that was like the top 25 players, basically, the last 100 years, something like that. I mean, tremendous. He had a guy named Yari Curry. If you don't know who he is, he won 5 Stanley Cups. He was a 5-time All-Star, Hall of Fame, also on the 100th anniversary team. He's 20th in goals all time. So that's basically your 20th leading scorer of all time, as your wing right there, okay? They had another guy, a defenseman, Glenn Anderson, who he won 6 Stanley Cups. He was in the Hall of Fame. He played with Gretzky for 8 years. Then you have Grant Fuhrer, the goaltender. 4-time Stanley Cup winner, 2-time All-Star, Hall of Famer. He's on the 100th anniversary team. You have, hold on. All right, sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, Grant Fuhrer was the goaltender on those Edmonton teams. He's also a Hall of Famer on the 100th anniversary team. Kevin Lowe, another guy, 6-time Stanley Cup winner in the Hall of Fame. And then you got Mark Messier. Mark Messier, 6 Stanley Cups. He's in the Hall of Fame on the 100th anniversary team. A 2-time Hart winner, which is the MVP. 5-time All-Star. He's number 9 in goals all time. So he played with the number 9 guy in goals and the number 20 guy in goals all time to this day. That's what Gretzky was playing with. He played with, and remember, there's only 6 guys on the ice at a time. It's very comparable to basketball. 5, and then you got the goaltender. So really, it's very comparable. He had Paul Coffey, Yari Curry, Glenn Anderson, Mark Messier, Grant Fuhrer, and Kevin Lowe. Basically, his whole team was Hall of Famers. And he had Grant Fuhrer, Mark Messier, Yari Curry, and Paul Coffey. 4 are on the 100th anniversary team. The team was loaded. Mark Messier won 4 Stanley Cups with Wayne Gretzky from 1980 to 88. That's true. Wayne Gretzky goes to the LA Kings in 1989. All right. The next year, in 1990, so that'd be the second year without Gretzky, Edmonton won the Stanley Cup without Gretzky. Now, people talk about that 94 Bulls team, that little piddly whatever, which I've done videos on that showing that it's nothing like what Nick Wright tries to say it is. These guys won the Stanley Cup without Wayne Gretzky, with no significant additions. Now, imagine if the Bulls won the NBA Finals in 1995 without Jordan. Then I would say there's some validity to all you're saying. But this is apples and oranges. But anyway, Mark Messier won the Stanley Cup with Edmonton in 1990 without Gretzky. He then goes to the Rangers, wins another Stanley Cup as the captain and best player in 1994. He had 4 game-winning goals in that playoff run, the most led the whole playoffs. So there you go. I mean, he had a top 10 all-time player, basically, Mark Messier. And Paul Coffey, number 20. He had all these Hall of Fame just loaded. It was like the 80s LA Lakers times 3. I mean, they were just loaded. So, how about back to my original point. Is anybody going to put Alex Ovechkin over Wayne Gretzky? No. Wayne Gretzky had everything going for him. But like I said, he had all these great teammates. And you could say he turned them into Hall of Famers, but they had success without him. So he obviously had legitimate great players he was playing with. Nobody held it against Gretzky about his teammates at all. In fact, Messier won 2 more Stanley Cups than Gretzky did in his career. Nobody held it against him. They just see how many times he, led the league in points. I can't help but the correlation. Wayne Gretzky in 20 seasons led the NHL in points 11 times. Michael Jordan in 15 seasons led the NBA scoring titles 10 times. So pretty comparable right there. Jordan won 2 more championships than Gretzky did. Gretzky won four more MVPs. Alex Ovechkin has won 3 MVPs, but it's 1/3 of what Wayne Gretzky won. So just because he overtakes him in all-time goals means nothing. Okay, moving on. Baseball. The all-time hit leader is Pete Rose. Pete Rose has the most games played, the most plate appearances, the most at-bats, the most hits all time. He led the MLB in hits 7 times, Rookie of the Year, 2 Gold Gloves, 3 batting titles, 3 World Series championships, and a World Series MVP. He's a 17-time All-Star. Anybody ever call Pete Rose the GOAT? I've never heard it. Great player, probably back in top 10. No, he's not the GOAT. Okay. How about Hank Aaron? Hank Aaron has the longevity for sure. I mean, this is a guy, he's got more All-Stars than LeBron does. This is a 21-time All-Star, Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron is the all-time leader in RBIs, pretty important stat when you say with 2297, total bases, 6856. He's second in home runs at 755. He should be first, really, but, the steroid boy, Barry Bonds, which, I won't get into the whole correlation about that, but that's a whole nother story. The correlation between Barry Bonds and LeBron is very real. But anyway, Hank Aaron was 14th in doubles all time, 3rd in hits with 3,771, a 21-time All-Star. He won 2 batting titles, 3 Gold Gloves, 1 MVP, 1 World Series championship. Now, how did he do in the playoffs? He was 25 for 69, hit .362 with 6 home runs and 16 RBIs. He has 4 home run crowns, 4 RBI crowns, 2 hit crowns, 2 batting titles, and he led the league in runs 3 times. This guy has all kinds of longevity, cumulative stats. Why is not Hank Aaron considered the best ever? Well, I looked up a couple. Baseball Almanac. They got Babe Ruth number 1, Lou Gehrig number 2, Ted Williams number 3, Hank Aaron number 4. Not GOAT. How about Britannica? Freaking Britannica. They got Babe Ruth number 1, Willie Mays number 2. They got Barry Bonds 3rd. I guess they just threw out the steroids, I guess. Ted Williams 4th, Hank Aaron 5th. ESPN has Ruth number 1, Mays number 2, and they do have Aaron 3rd. But no GOAT, not even close. And he leads in all this stuff. He has unbelievably great accumulative stats. Not the GOAT. One last comparison. In the NFL, when people say running back, typically there's 3 names that jump up. You got Barry Sanders, you got Walter Payton, and you got Jim Brown. Those are your top 3 contenders, no doubt about it. Walter Payton has all kinds of longevity. I mean, he has the best season ever, I think, as a 31-year-old. Best ever as a 32-year-old. And if the stat I love the most that, I got Peyton as the GOAT. I'm biased. I agree. But this one stat is hard to always get past. Or not even stat. I guess it is. From 1975, his rookie year, to 1984, his first 10 seasons in the NFL, Walter Payton had no Pro Bowlers on offense on his team for his first 10 years of his career. So who do you think the Bears were keying on, or who do you think the other team was keying on the Bears on Sunday? Of course it was Peyton. Absolutely. He won 1 MVP, finished second another time. In 1985, he rushed for 1,555 yards as a 31, 32-year-old player. I think he was 31. And then in 86, he had over 1,300 yards as a 32-year-old. Not many people doing that anymore. But anyway, it's Jim Brown, it's Barry Sanders, and it's Walter Payton, right? Jim Brown played 9 years. Barry Sanders played 10 years. Payton played 13 years, but of course he had a strike-shortened year. Anyway, Emmitt Smith is the all-time leader, rushing leader, in attempts, in yards, rushing touchdowns, touches. He also is the all-time leader in the playoffs in rushing yards and touchdowns with 19 playoff touchdowns. That's remarkable. He's got 3 Super Bowl victories, 1 Super Bowl MVP. He's got a 4-time rushing leader. He's an 8-time Pro Bowler, 5-time All-Pro. He's not the GOAT. No one ever says it. Anybody I've ever talked to about this subject, Jim Brown, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders. Those are your choices, those 3. You pick whatever order you want, but those are the 3. O.J. Simpson would probably be 4th if we're being fair and honest and not being biased because what he did. But I would say O.J. would probably be 4th. And then it's wide open. I love Eric Dickerson. Thought he was great. Marshall Faulk was great. Tony Dorsett, Earl Campbell, Gale Sayers, LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson. Emmitt Smith is in that category. He's in there with those guys. I think the tier of Eric Dickerson and O.J. Simpson would like a number 4 and 5, right in that tier. I don't even think Emmitt Smith is cracking that. And the top tier, the top 3 guys of Peyton Sanders and Jim Brown, no chance. So why do we only do it in the NBA? Why is that? It's got to be because there's some agenda going on here. There's some outside force that has been pushing this narrative for years. Because if we open up our eyes and we look at the big picture, we realize that, LeBron James played in a very weakened conference. He's a great player, sure, no doubt about it, with unbelievable athletic ability. But as far as playing the game of basketball, winning, making your teammates better, being clutch, coming through when your team really needs you, that kind of thing, he just wasn't that guy. I don't even have him as a top 10 all-time player. I just don't. And, this narrative is ridiculous. I think it's time that we, don somebody else as the GOAT because it isn't LeBron. He's gone, 11 seasons now without an MVP or a first team all defense? Or this will be the 11th season. Yeah, I don't think so, But anyway, that's all I got for this video. I know it's a little off topic than what we're used to. But again, why don't we do it in the NFL? Why don't we do it in Major League Baseball? Why don't we do it in hockey? There's a case to be made for Alex Ovechkin to overtake Gretzky. No way, because of the total package. Gretzky's always going to be the GOAT. But there's an argument to be made. Okay, how about Hank Aaron in baseball? You could easily make an argument that Hank Aaron was the greatest baseball player of all time. He did everything. He was great. I mean, he's got all the longevity stats. 21-time All-Star. Nope, he's never heard him being the GOAT. And then you got, Pete Rose, all-time leader in hits and all that. Nope, never heard Pete Rose either. Not even in the top 5, probably. So longevity doesn't mean anything in baseball. Emmitt Smith in football didn't mean a thing. He played a long time, racked up all those yards and touchdowns, but he was also on a great team. But we knew he was not better than Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, or Jim Brown. There's just no way. So why do we do it in the NBA? And forget about Michael Jordan. He's not better than Kobe Bryant, Magic Johnson, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Akeem Olajuwon, Wilt Chamberlain, Tim Duncan, even Shaq. I just don't see it. Longevity is one aspect. It's one criteria. It is. And he scores really high points on it. But overall, no, LeBron falls short, well short. So anyway, I'll get into that in other videos, but this is one I wanted to put out and compare other sports. And then, please tell me in the comments, why do we just look at the NBA for longevity is what it's all about, but only for LeBron? Like it was never for Kareem. It was never for Karl Malone. Then you want to bring in championships. And then if you say anything like, well, he falls short of championship. Well, Bill Russell's got the most. I mean, so again, these people are just being ridiculous. They're being very biased. Agenda's being pushed. Clutch Sports is probably at the heart of all this. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please hit the like button. And until next time.